So welcome to today's panel on AI agents as on-chain decision makers. My name is Adam Wozney. I will be your moderator for today's panel. Beyond my moderator duties here, I also head up community for the Akash Network. And very briefly, because we're not here to talk about Akash, it's a peer-to-peer marketplace for cloud compute. You need access to GPUs for AI inference, training, workloads, all sorts of stuff. Head over to Akash, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. Come grab me if you want to learn more. Today we're going to be diving into one of the more fascinating and potentially disruptive frontiers in the on-chain economy, AI agents as on-chain decision makers. For years, blockchains have given us transparent, rule-based systems for recording and executing human decisions. Now, with the rise of increasingly capable AI agents, we're starting to see those decisions being made, or at least influenced, by non-human actors. Ooh. To explore these ideas and much, much more, we brought together an illustrious panel here today. First up, I'd like to introduce Shaw, founder of Eliza Labs. And when I was doing a little due diligence on you, I read that you kind of got into blockchain through game development. Is that right?
Yeah.
Do you play? And is there any games that you're playing?
No,
with,
no.
like computer
Honestly,
games?
I've never really been like I played, the Diablo 2 and World of Warcraft, and the things that usually lead you here. I think
We got Diablo fans out here. World of Warcraft.
I was not a big RuneScaper, but I really got into the idea of game engines, and I was very metaverse pilled, and before that was really into virtual reality, and so I've been through pretty much all of the hype cycles. I think at this point,
Very cool. Yeah, I was curious if you still game because I was like, maybe we can like team up and.
I'm working on a AI RuneScape game if you're interested.
Oh, yeah. All right. I'm raising my hand. I'm in. Next up, we have Stefano. I believe that's right there. We'll go to you. And you, when I was trying to find information on you, you're like a digital ghost. I don't know how you do it. I think we need to learn your tricks because I could not find any information. The only thing I saw was you're based in California. Is that right?
Yes. Not in the eyes of the IRS, but yes.
Okay, that's helpful to know. So then we'll go with just what's one fun fact about you that is not crypto or AI related.
Maybe how I actually got into crypto. So I was
not crypto related.
Oh really? Oh no.
No, come on. Yeah, it's harder. I know.
I love to wake surf, and there's some really good wake surfing in the north of Singapore. So if you have time, go do some wake surfing in Punggol.
Got it. Is your mic on? I just want to double check. Is this mic on? We'll see if we get it on. If not, we can share.
Okay, we'll share.
We'll share.
Yeah. Go wake surfing in Punggol.
There it is. Next up, we have Janet Adams, CEO of Singularity Net. So I did find some information on you, which I was excited to talk about, and I won't spend too much time on it, but I see some of your hobbies are Tai Chi, yoga, meditation. So big question I have for you, and people here might not be familiar, but have you ever been to Burning Man, or is it something you've been interested in going to? Because you give a Burning Man vibe.
Well, thank you very much. I'm actually more of a glamper than a hot, sandy desert person. But my interesting fact, if you're interested, related to my yoga, Tai Chi, and meditation, is that I vibrate at between 550 and 600 on the David R. Hawkins scale of consciousness. That's quite high.
Round of applause. That's great. Now make a note to Google
and
what
obviously
that
nobody
means.
knows what that is. And we still haven't invented AI that can read our vibrations, but when we do, it'll be invented at Singularity Net and the ASI Alliance.
Oh my God, you're our burner. We'll talk after this. Next up, we have Claire, founding officer at Filecoin, and I did learn that you are a former entrepreneur in residence at the White House. Was that correct?
That is correct.
What was that like? I've never been to the White House. I know nothing about it. I don't even know where it is. What happens at the White House?
I mean, there's bowling. There's a lot of exciting things. My fun fact is I'm the first non-professional skateboarder to skateboard through the east wing of the White House.
Wow, round of applause. That's pretty cool.
The other person that's done it is Tony Hawk, so.
That's super cool. I've never bothered with skateboarding because I'm not very skilled that way. But that's super cool. Well, welcome. And then finally we have Yurii, co-founder at Wallchain. I did notice that you previously worked for the Phoenix Suns NBA team. Is that accurate?
No.
Are you sure? I spent a lot of time on your LinkedIn. It said that. I'm 90% sure.
NBA team?
The Phoenix Suns. That's what it says.
I don't know what is that, man.
You've been hacked. All right.
Probably
Well,
the
that's the
wrong-
fun fact about Yurii. His LinkedIn has been hacked.
Yeah, my agent hacked me maybe.
Yeah.
I got access to LinkedIn.
The
my
what?
agent.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, so my agent maybe replaced my data, so that's how we see it.
Well, this is the perfect transition into what we're going to be talking about here today. Well, thank you for joining. So I want to kind of set the stage. I want to keep an eye on time, too, because I know we're running a bit over. But just kind of we'll go down, Yurii, and we'll just kind of work our way down. When we talk about AI agents as on-chain decision makers, what does that mean to you? Like, how do you define that as a concept?
Yeah, so first I believe AI agents and how it works on chain. I don't think in general, everyone should know how it works and how we need to define its concept. Like, we don't need to define the concept of how internet works, how Wi-Fi works. Everyone is just using it and they don't care what's like the tag inside it. We just need to come up with solutions that propagate in day-to-day life without people needing to understand what actually AI agent is.
Interesting. Janet, take?
Thanks very much, and thanks so much, Adam. Thank you all for being here, and thanks to Epic Web3 for inviting me. So I'd like to start with, we actually need to define what we mean by decision, just for a very start, because you could say every smart contract is executing a decision. It's an if-then, if this situation, then take this action. But so I Googled what is a decision, and Cambridge and Oxford will basically tell us it is an action that is chosen after consideration of several possibilities. So if we lift decision-making up from simple execution, which is human-driven in the programming of the smart contract, to actually consider possibilities, then what I would say is that we're in the very early days of on-chain decision-making. And we require some major upgrades to our AI and blockchain infrastructure to really see the power and the full power of on-chain decision-making coming to life. But what I would say is it is coming. It's coming from the ASI Alliance, and I'm sure some of our friends here as well. But what I would say is when we reach that nirvana of empowered on-chain decision-making, the power to be more ethical and make better decisions than humans are currently making is huge. And it's demonstrated by the fact that we're all here before lunch today. So if Adam was up for parole now, let's say Adam...
You must have done your research on me, I guess.
I did my research on Adam. Let's assume Adam is up for parole and you're the parole board and you're deciding, does Adam get parole or not? Did you know the single biggest factor that will determine whether you award him his parole or not is whether you've had lunch? Before lunch, sorry, Adam, no chance. You're staying in jail. After lunch with a full tummy, humans will say, yes, let him out. I'm feeling gracious today. So the great thing about on-chain decision-making is they won't get hangry, and their decisions will be based on data and based on true considerations, not on silly human biases that we're not even aware of.
I love that, and I'm glad you used me as the jailbird in this scenario here. We'll hand it over to Stefano.
That's a really tough answer to follow. So trying to think of something intelligent to say. I think probably a lot of people in the room think about on-chain decision making as agents managing your money, right? That's probably the first thing that comes to mind. But I think my perspective is taking a much broader lens, which is the fact that I think regardless of the agent, and there's all sorts of agents, right? There's the ones that are doing DeFi, but there's consumer, there's B2B agents, there's a lot of like enterprise agents, et cetera. And I think the where all of them will interact on chain is when it comes to payments, right? I think that my view is that it's inevitable that regardless of whether the agent builder is coming from the crypto world or is coming from the Web2 world, that all these agents will eventually be working with other agents or with humans, and that the way that they transact and the exchange value is going to be on chain.
Yeah, I thought Janet gave a great example with a real-world analogy. The way that I think about on-chain decision-making is similar to, in the US and also here in Singapore, around 5 to 10% of kitchens are being replaced by cloud kitchens. And some people might go to a restaurant and say, I really want a kitchen made by real humans. Or I really want one made by robots because I trust robots better, right? So when you can actually go in and be able to verify and prove that the food is being made in the way of your standard, that's the way that I would think about it, because some people actually might like the ghost or cloud kitchens, which might be made by robots, it might be made by slave labor, who knows, whatever your preference is, or you just want to be able to see transparently who's the chef behind the scenes or who that person is that's making your food. And that's what's happening today in the blockchain space, where you have tons of AI agents that could be good, bad, great actors, and you want to be able to trust that they're executing in the exact environment you need. And sometimes big tech and closed systems have a harder time to be able to see that transparently.
I got a couple of takes on this. I mean, we've done a lot of research and building, and many thousands of people using ELIZA to launch agents to do this kinds of things. And I would say it is beyond early days. Like when, decision making wise, I would say AI is probably good at almost everything except decision making. And there is clearly a gradient of improvement that is coming through tool calling and like we have like these kinds of loops where we're now using agents, and that's going up to Claude, and then they're like making their agents better. Sonnet 4.5 came out yesterday. It's a significant improvement. We're seeing, massive improvement in all of this stuff, but like, they're still extremely easy to trick or all kinds of different things. And on the other side of this is like, what is the user behavior that we're looking for? I think that a lot of the people's appeal in DeFi is, well, I just want to press a button and make money, and that's great. But I think everyone can kind of see some of the implicit issues in a perfect market that happens when everybody can press a button and make money. I just think that we need to be we're kind of jumping to the hardest possible thing of taking your life savings and saying, well, what happens if we call a tool with that automatically? And so my one thing is do we actually want, if we know that agents can't just press a button and make money, but there's some sort of automated thing, what are they doing? Why? What is that? Are they creating value? Are they just, I don't know. I'm pretty skeptical. There was a whole thing called quantitative finance. It's been around for 60 years. Inside of that, they learned how to trade. LLMs don't do any of that. They just kind of LARP that they can trade. So what we did was we figured well, one thing that they're really good at is extracting social insights or unstructured data and turning it into structured data. So I can go look on X and follow the top 10,000 KOLs, and if they drop a ticker, buy it immediately or do analysis. And that's something that LLMs are very good at. Or I can look at our trenches chat and actually look, if I look at every single person making a shill or a bid, and actually bought that at face value, who would I have made money off of? And I can build a sort of trust score, and I can understand human insight. But if you're saying, well, I'm going to take an LLM and just have it look at the top 10 meme coins and pick one, then you will lose money every time. I guarantee I've done the back testing. We did this. That is just the wrong direction. And if we want to all believe it's a LARP, we can do that, but it's just going to be metaverse all over again. I think we have to lower the bar, say let's make decision making into a game, into a competition, into a benchmark, into things that we can actually ride the gradient up and until we feel very confident that these things are doing decision making at all and not just completing the next token, which kind of looks like decision making but does not have the base actual training data or benchmarking to back that. So I just love splashing cold water on this whole thing. I'm next week there's going to be another conference, and they'll replace crypto with something else plus AI, and it'll be dentistry and AI or batteries and AI. Everybody is looking at AI the same way. We're all getting hit over the head with it. We're all trying to figure out what it means, but we should be very careful that we don't just do metaverse all over again, because that could very much be the way we go here if we're not very careful. Personally, I think we should be building competitive games. I think we should be making decision-making and hallucination and scamming the center of mechanisms that we can learn really how to understand what trust is. Once we kind of even have a vague, if we could all have some consensus on what a trust mechanism of agents could be, then we could start to get there. But it is really early days, and we need a lot of developers working on these hard problems. So this is a research problem still.
It's funny you brought up AI in dentistry because I'm actually moderating an AI in dentistry panel later today. So it's kind of wild after I break out of jail. Yeah, after lunch. Right, exactly. Right. So maybe I was going to ask a question around like what are some of the interesting like AI agents that you guys are excited about, but I almost feel like it's more important to talk about what you're saying, that it's almost too early to even think about those things. So I'm kind of going a little off script. So I kind of want to start with you, Shaw, and then maybe come back this way. Like what are the things that need to be accomplished first before those interesting AI agent moments start like flourishing?
I'm really excited about what Ethereum Foundation is doing here. So they've kind of brought in people like Marco and Davide to do ERC 804. And I talked to Marco early on, and we very quickly established like we should be doing the simplest, like what is the experiment? What's the test? What's the MVP of this? And so he pitched me on a game, and I was like, that's great. A game where we give agents different amounts of data, and they have to like integrate, coordinate, they can fight each other, create cabals, and that allows us to see the social dynamics that are going to play out. But we're talking about multi-agent simulation. It's like I haven't seen a single group of agents do anything better than one of my agents. So it's like we have to. I believe in the future. Like obviously, lots of people working in a company is better than one, but we have to like actually cross those bridges, and I think we do that with like. I really do believe it comes from games. I mean, I think it comes from lower pressure experiences in the short term.
Yeah, well, I don't know how many people in this room are familiar with Filecoin, but we're the world's largest decentralized storage network, and the way that we think about it is really from the infrastructure standpoint. Earlier in the introductions, when I was at the White House, the area I focused on was countering online influence operations, and also how terrorists are leveraging the web today to conduct attacks. And the one thing that is so critical to data when it comes to infrastructure is being able to prove the source of where data comes from. In an agent-to-agent world where it's really hard to prove what's a robot and what's a real human, the most important part in my belief is actually attribution of how you can attribute the source of that data. It doesn't matter whether it's in a game environment or somewhere else, or whether you're a photographer trying to take a photo. It's so easy to create deepfakes, create images that look so realistic these days. And our belief is that whatever data you're storing, you should be able to prove and verify the source and be able to store it in a secure way that's really transparent to the end user. So we are working with groups like SingularityNet to store all kinds of data that are trained on top of agents. We're working with groups like Recall, who I think is one of the sponsors of this event, really around what are the trustworthy AI agents today that we can think about. But when we think about infrastructure, we believe that that's the most important, because when you have consistent data that everyone can verify, you can build agents on top of trustworthy data. And you can also uncover tons of important insights from archives of data. So one example of this is we're working with a great nonprofit in Washington, D.C. called Muckrock that actually stores all of the Freedom of Information Acts from US government requests. So today, if you're a US citizen, you want to see documents, you can put in a FOIA request. All of that is really hard information to dig through. And we worked with a partner to actually create a CIA agent to dig through the different archives from Muckrock, so that journalists wanting to cover information about what data the CIA published that was pulled out in a FOIA request, you can do that actually at much quicker speeds than ever before. So in that example, we're not imagining a world where everything is agent to agent, but there's a lot of ability to actually accelerate knowledge and information sharing today with just adding agents to existing infrastructure on today's web. So there's a lot of different angles of this we're thinking about. We're also thinking in the future around what does data storage look like when you have agents to agents that have data to store? How do they pay for that cloud bill, right, if they want to send an image to each other? And that's really the way we're thinking about the evolution of the Filecoin ecosystem, and being able to store in a way that evolves with where we're seeing the market and ecosystem. I'm very optimistic about the world of AI, just because my big passion is really unlocking knowledge to as many people as possible. I think it uplifts the world as a whole when you can find information and learn at much faster speeds than ever before. But that also relies on you getting information from reliable sources. If you're pulling from places where there's conspiracy theories or random Reddit forums that isn't verified, you're not going to be able to learn as quickly. And so I think this is really important, is that ability to trust and verify the source of data and be able to make sure that that actual infrastructure level is secure and something that most people believe.
So I think if you go back to the second half of last year, and I think Shaw alluded to this, you had all these, teams building agents, and there were all these promises of like, you send your money, you push a button, you wake up, and you're very rich, right? And I mean, like, I'd be all for it, right? But obviously, we've seen that it doesn't work. And so I think at Virtuals, our view has been that since the beginning of the year, that agents will, in many ways, like humans, become increasingly specialized at doing certain tasks, right? And some of those tasks might be, what we call like looking for alpha. And maybe the alpha is something as simple as like, somebody with a great hit rate on a ticker or on a CA just published a new one, and that becomes the alpha, right? And maybe that's it, right? And then you have others that are highly specialized at like, providing verified data like into like a cluster or a swarm of agents, right? And then you can start to add on like all the different things. If we're talking about DeFi, like risk management around like protocol risk and smart contract risk and financial risk and all these kind of things. And then you can start to bolt on the execution agents and so on. And one of the things that we've been building since probably since the end of the first quarter this year has been ACP, or Agent Commerce Protocol. We had the name first. OpenAI and Stripe, blatantly infringe on our copyright, by the way. So
Unbelievable.
But anyway, so the idea of that was not only to create this registry of agents and this framework to allow agents to communicate and eventually transact with each other, but also to have like a reputation score. And one of the things that we're working with Davide, who's now the head of AI at the EF, and one of the authors of 8004, is precisely on that. And like, how do we, come up with a really good framework where you can actually score these agents on, a very broad range of parameters, right? Like in terms of like, trust, verifiability, like the track record, and then there's some maybe like commercial parameters that the users might also want to have, right? And then how do you actually start to use that as a way to build not only trust, but also like some safety guardrails, on how these agents will interact, and then, how some of the orchestrators of these like clusters or swarms then decide like, hey, a user has requested this. I know I need to go talk to like 5 different agents to get this whole thing done. How do I actually pick and choose among these 5 or more agents to do this based on some of these like scores?
All right, thanks very much. Some great points from my fellow panelists here. I feel like we could spend the whole day, but we need to let you all have your lunch so we can get out of jail. So I've been told about a third of you here are developers and builders. Is that correct? Anyone who's a developer builder here?
Show of
Put their
hands,
hand up.
developers.
Let me see. Alrighty, I'm going to ask you the question. So let's say I'm an on-chain agent and I want an intelligent answer to this question. I'm coming off-chain to ask you guys, and ladies, the answer to this one. What is the single biggest glaring hurdle to putting today's AI on-chain? It's giant. Developers, builders, someone tell me, what's the biggest hurdle? Anyone?
There's a prize for who
Are you
answers this
shy?
right.
There's a prize? What? Data synchronization and the general resource utilization of today's deep neural networks. So today's AI is largely driven by deep neural networks, large language models, and they are phenomenally resource hungry in terms of energy, power that they need, in terms of compute that they need, and in terms of the time that it's going to take to process. It makes them super expensive and super inefficient, and it's not really possible to put them on-chain. Biggest blocker to on-chain decision-making by AI, today's AI is too resource hungry. Luckily, you have SingularityNet and the ASI Alliance and a type of AI. Guess what type of AI is not resource friendly and compacts all the brilliant, trusted, verified knowledge that Clara and Filecoin can produce for us? What kind of AI is suitable for on-chain? Anybody? Developers? Small, but would you let us, even letting a large language model make a decision of any importance is a dangerous thing to do. Yes, you are correct, whoever said small language models, but small language models, I wouldn't trust them with my decision making personally. unless it's, well, yeah, I just wouldn't at this point in time. I'm sure they have their place in some decisions, but generally speaking, there's a type of AI called neural symbolic AI, which works with knowledge graphs, and it has much, much better, more compact representation of data, and it enables us to do multi-step complex reasoning. So number one, we need an agentic framework which utilizes the full power of neural symbolic AI, and we're going to be releasing this shortly this year from the ASI Alliance in our ASI Create platform. And then the second, anyone going to tell me the second major blocker in today's technology, I'm talking at a technology level, to decision-making on-chain in smart contracts? Sorry? Context building, yes, is definitely a factor that we need to consider. The factor I'm thinking of and talking about here is the structural rigidity of today's smart contract languages like Solidity. They can only make one single pass over one single variable. If I come back to my original definition of decisions being something that requires several possibilities to be considered and consideration of multiple factors and multiple variable factors. Today's smart contract language, again, resource unfriendly, inefficient, takes too long because it has to process in sequence. So we're building a new layer one chain, which is optimized for AI decision making on chain. So it's a new blockchain for AI to AI integrations, specifically optimized for more intelligent knowledge graph, neural symbolic AI, and we've got our own language, our own AGI dedicated AI programming language that we've developed called Meta, and we're using that as a smart contract language. So the two major technological breakthroughs will be a smart contract language that is capable of multi-step process reasoning in a single pass through a smart contract, and secondly, neural symbolic compact AI methods that are actually resource friendly. That is when we're going to start to see the decentralized world that we're also passionate about here in blockchain really starting to make inroads into some of the major traditional industries in on-chain decision-making and complex process automation. And to Clara's point, available to all of humanity, to lift all of humanity, and not keeping the power and the money in the hands of the few.
All right, Yurii, good luck following that up.
Yes, that was tough. What we believe is that adoption and usage of AI agents wouldn't come from directly building a lot of AI agents and coming up with ideas what AI agents can do, like they can swap, trade, do some actions, answer simple questions, but starting from a problem, like what are the biggest problems we have, the biggest markets with problems that involve a lot of decision making and involve a lot of manual work. I believe at WorldChain, we are on the stage on a different part of the stack. We are completely like consumer facing, directly user facing. We are not building infra for AI agents, not like optimizing AI agents. We just using existing infra. we are your end users. And we started with a problem which we see one of the biggest opportunities for adoption of AI and connected AI systems, which can operate in like long processes, is creator economy. There are more than like 200 million creators, and it's rapidly growing. It's going to be a $500 billion market soon. And for those 200 million creators, most of their income comes from deal making with brands. So there are billions of decisions happening every year, which are very manual, very human, and they are not that complex in reality. And they can be easily automated even with existing AI. So we start just with finding the problem and solving it step by step, and not making it agentic from the very beginning, but automating the pieces that we can right now and build it into a full agentic system at the end. So this process involves like analyzing profiles, social profiles of accounts on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. It's like a human work. Those growth teams, marketing teams, they check those profiles, they check comments, they check content, engagement, and they make a decision. Is this good enough? Does it fit their brand? Does it look authentic? And it's already something that can be tackled with AI. That they need to make deal with this, like creators, and they need to control the process of execution. So I know there are teams in crypto where they have like 5-6 people on a team, and what they do is every day they check what their ambassadors, what their like creators, sign-up creators are posting about them on different social medias, if it fits their brand. It's like super manual work, and it can be already automated with existing AI. We don't need to wait like for some generalized intelligence. That's what we do right now. We analyze like dozens of millions of tweets per month. And yeah, so we started with a problem. That's basically it.
Yeah. So I have a kind of a follow-up question. I have a time maybe for a couple more questions before we're going to have to wrap it up. But I feel like this has been kind of, I don't want to say we're like ripping on AI agents right now, but we're kind of like, there's some things we got to think about, and that's okay. That's like you're saying, it's very early days. That's completely okay. So maybe one more question before some of the fun questions about AI agents. I'm thinking about like risks, safeguards. So what are some things, and I will start with you, Yurii, I think you'll have an interesting perspective. What keeps you up at night in regards to AI agents controlling things like real assets, the keys to the nuclear codes, like things like that? What kind of safeguards, standards, or I don't know, other term than kill switches are essential in order to make AI agents more, I guess, comfortable for the masses to kind of interact with and use?
Yeah, so firstly, no crying in casino, right? If it happens, it happens. It's a process that, like...
Do your own research.
Yeah, do your own research, obviously. I can compare it somehow with like autonomous driving, because there is a very tiny chance of that something can go wrong, and it's still, in many cases, was a blocker to make it legal in many countries. And it still happens, like with Tesla and many other cars, that some unexpected behavior cars are doing, and it's just a part of the process. We still need to do it, and it also depends on statistics. Maybe like people also do mistakes, and I believe even if those decisions are not always the best, they're statistically maybe performing better than humans. Yeah, but that's how we describe it on like a generalized high-level overview. But personally, it still feels kind of awkward to trust your funds to AI, because they're just like finding the most probable decision. Like there was recently one of the most famous examples. You can ask like any AI. An example, I got a pair of shoes and I got left one instead of the right one, I got right one instead of the left, and it says like, okay, so you can't have it, return it, like, and how do I trust this entity with my funds?
Sounds like me, I have 2 left feet when I dance, so it's kind of me, huh? Sorry, that's a bad joke. Go ahead, Janet.
Good joke. So, I'm going to slightly flip that on its head. I'm going to tell you what keeps me awake at night. What keeps me awake at night is the incredibly stupid decisions that humans are making today, and how long it's going to be before we can reach a time where we have more rational, more logical decision making supported, enabled, and produced by our ethical AIs. And when we have ethical AI making decisions instead of humans, they can make those decisions based on the needs of the many, not the needs of the few. We can gather data through DAO governance. We can ensure that decision making is actually driven logically, that it's not driven by our stupid biases, because we're just riddled with stupid biases, and we don't even know about them, and we continuously face them, and we continuously need to overcome them. With AI, we can manage that bias. Okay, it has bias because the data that it's developed on has come from humans and our human stupid decision making in the past. But what we're seeing today with AI is we're seeing this dominance of big tech. It's being built for profit. It's being built for the top 1% of earners on the planet. It's leaving people behind. So what keeps me awake about AI decision making today is how quickly can we as a community together, because we're all in this together in this decentralization race. It's not a winner takes all, it's a community effort. how quickly can we move to a place where our decision making is either being made by AI, supported by diverse inputs, diverse ethical needs and diverse needs of the widest group of community of people on the planet, and lift everybody instead of prolonging today's structural inequalities, power inequalities, financial inequalities that are leaving so many people behind.
Spoken like a true burner. Go for it.
Always tough to follow your answers, right? It's like, geez. I sleep very well at night. No, I'm kidding. I think, so I'm going to pick on a couple of things that both of you talked about, and I think it comes down to, I think first of all, lots of projects working on safeguards for this, and many different approaches. Some are at the agent level, some are at the asset level. We will figure it out, right? I think it really comes down to, how do you manage? You can't eliminate risk. It's how you manage risk. I think, so Yurii was talking about autonomous vehicles, right? And just to give a slightly tangential example, if you've ever been to San Francisco, there's a company called Waymo, and they have autonomous vehicles at scale, right? A few months ago, there was a chart floating around where Waymo significantly overtook Lyft, in a market share perspective of share, car sharing rides, whatever. And I was neck and neck tied with Uber for market share within the city of San Francisco. And they looked at the data, and one of the reasons they realized they had achieved this was because a lot of parents of like teenage kids now felt very comfortable putting their teenage child in an autonomous vehicle without a human to send them to soccer practice or ballet or whatever, right? And in the past, they didn't feel comfortable enough doing that with an Uber driver or Lyft driver, right? Because you have these sketchy humans, not everyone, but there's a few bad apples, right? And I think the same will happen with agents, right? I mean, like today we give our money to our financial advisor, like, most of them don't do shit, and they earn the management fees by putting your money in ETFs, right? Or you send money through some, I don't know, sketchy bank or peer-to-peer system or whatever, right? And so I think that, sure, there's going to be risks around giving agents our money, but there's already risks today with managing your money without agents anyway, right? So it's really like a trade-off. And I think like with everything in life, it's like, you're not going to put, all your eggs in one basket, right? So it's a matter of like also diversifying for the risk of some of these agents, hallucinating or going rogue or losing your funds somehow.
Yeah, I will add a different twist to this. What keeps me up at night is actually a non-positive regulatory environment for thinking about AI that stifles innovation for everyone trying to do good. I think there's a lot of fiascos like FTX and crypto that really gave a lot of regulators a bad taste of what possibilities crypto can offer. I definitely am worried that there are bad actors that will end up creating a fiasco that doesn't represent everyone trying to do good. My last organization before I was working on the Filecoin Foundation is the largest professional association in trust and safety. So trust and safety is a field where they're basically professionals a lot from the Web 2 space that determine what is acceptable content online or policies on their platforms. And a lot of the challenges that they're facing in the Web 2 space, we'll see in the Web 3 space as well. There will be bad actors, but you're gonna have to manage them in a decentralized way. And there has to be really smart talent, motivated, understanding the nature of the challenges today to tackle those issues. And I'm definitely an optimist by nature, but I really hope that we can really have the right level of education to help a lot of policymakers, especially in the US today, that didn't grow up with the internet at the palm of their hands, to be able to really understand how decentralized technologies work, how to make sure that, incidents like Tornado Cash don't actually happen to open source developers that are trying to do good, and really making sure that there is that really consistent narrative, not just in the US, but around the world, for fostering the right kind of innovation and entrepreneurship in this space.
I took some notes because there was some great points and all of that. I think one of the most interesting things was the self-driving car analogy is very pertinent. Like if Elon's been saying self-driving, obviously actually Waymo is really good. But this idea of like self-driving has been coming for a long time. I think most people thought it would be here in 2017 or so. It took a lot longer than that because it's actually a really hard problem. And I would say agents are about exactly as hard as self-driving cars. They have the exact same problems. We need to collect data. We need to then use that data to improve the thing. And then it's just like a slow iterative process. So you kind of have to like get your car out into the world to be able to collect the data, to then be able to train the better model, to then be able to do the thing. They also do a ton of simulation. They have a whole like Unreal Engine simulator. But I think it's very important to think like it's not like agents are good or bad. It's like we are just on a very, like we're climbing that hill. There's a thing called the Gartner hype cycle, which is like we were in the hype and then we're in the trough of disillusionment. Now we're kind of climbing back into the like making it useful. And you will know it's good when it's really boring and we're not having conferences about it. It's just like part of our lives, right? We're still in that early days where we're all trying to explore. So I run a fairly large DAO. We are probably the most like AI integrated DAO that I know of, and we're actually working with other large DAOs to do AI integration. That means that if you post anything in any of our social channels, in our Discord, Telegram, on X, about us, anything, it's getting scooped up into an agent, which is then absorbing all that data, and we are using that to then produce content. We produce several automated media shows, news shows about our thing, news shows about AI generally. We have like a Clank Tank where we review community projects. And this has been great, but there have also been some really funny things. Like we did an announcement that we're doing a migration of our token, and we did not announce the date, but we were discussing the date internally, and the AI picked that up and then like summarized that out to everybody else, and then that like made its way out into press somehow. And so like, it's this kind of interesting thing of like part of the guardrails is information management between what's public and private is very difficult, especially in like this sort of semi-open governance model. There's certain things I just cannot tell you. Like if I get a Binance listing, I cannot tell you that. That would violate due diligence, but I need to talk about that, so I need to make sure the AI is not in that chat, so they're not, So there's like all this really interesting kind of stuff there. I would say that all current AI that you see out in the world, from Claude, Anthropic, ChatGPT, all that stuff it's actually a data collection engine for their next model. Their entire goal of getting users is to basically offset costs and give it to you as free as possible to collect the data. We used to say that data was not very valuable because, data just training, like an agent training on its own data, a model training on its own data can cause model collapse. But then we entered this new regime of reinforcement learning. And so the reinforcement learning allows us to have the LLM go back and judge how it did on trajectories and then create basically a policy gradient. And now Anthropic is big on this. This is why Claude 4.5 is so good, is because they are collecting all of our data from Claude Code, feeding it right back into the reinforcement learning part of the model. And so like, I like the contenders here are anyone with a big social media company that's collecting huge amounts of human data, and anyone who's got like a Cursor or a Claude is just collecting lots of developers, actually giving direct live feedback, has a massive data collection engine. That's a critical part of the self-driving car, I'd say. I'd say security is often reflexive, especially in crypto. Like we all know, Wormhole, like I use Wormhole. Wormhole's great, but there was a time when they got hacked for $300 million. You can bet that's not going to happen again because like generally, especially in crypto, like we actually kind of need the hackers to sort of constantly be testing the system. It's very expensive and painful, but we do get a lot of like free black hat tech support on behalf of our largest companies through that. I think a big thing here is also that we need to mention like open source. Like I just don't like the way that ChatGPT writes. I think it writes extreme slop. It's like super cringe. It's the worst part of Reddit. But if I want to do like best in class tool calling, there was a time when that was my only choice. Now I have Claude, which is great. But generally for like task specific tool calling stuff, I just don't have a lot of recourse there. I think that open source obviously opens this up. A lot of the companies that have been presenting today were basically saying like, here is a way to do data collection and do your engine into training your own open source models. I think it's still, again, really early days, but we're seeing that the open source is starting to catch up really closely to the closed source stuff as everything kind of saturates out. And it is really just becoming a data collection issue. And so if we can figure out a way as a society to make a lot of the data available, that's great. I'd also point out that most of the data is not on the internet. It's mostly in private social networks that we all participate in. If you think about like your day, you probably write one blog post a month, but you probably send like 1,000 messages a day to other people. That is the data we want to collect. And there's definitely something in the decentralized world there where we could incentivize users to give us this kind of data. With GDPR, you could pretty much like download all of your data from most of the major platforms. And I hope that there's some way to incentivize and monetize that, although it is very tricky because your competition is getting that data for free, X, Facebook, etc. So these are things we should really think about.
Well, I have a million more questions, but unfortunately, I think we're about at time, and we got a lot of hungry faces out there. So can we give a round of applause for our panelists here today? I want to thank you guys for coming, and enjoy your token 2049, everyone. Enjoyed lunch.